Hey everyone, welcome back to the Pylon Cam. Um, in this video, we're going to go through my reactions to the Thursday night game, Buccaneers versus Cowboys. This is something we're going to try to do every week. Typically have these videos out by Friday. I've just been super sick, so that's why it's coming out on Saturday night. I finally have the energy to go ahead and get this done. But yeah, I think that there's a lot to unpack from this game. Um, and let's just get into it. So first takeaway is just how the two franchises carry themselves. Uh, you would have thought if you looked on Twitter that the Cowboys had won this game. Um, the Cowboys were super static, super excited. I saw the phrase "moral victory" thrown out a ton, and that is something that in professional sports, you typically do not expect to be thrown around. Being that there are no moral victories in professional sports, your job is dependent on winning games. And I just think since over the past 3 decades, you can't convince me that the Cowboys are focused on winning a Super Bowl. If that were the case, I don't think in 2020 Jerry Jones would have locked himself in his yacht and went and drafted by himself. In this past year, I don't think there would have been rumors about Jerry Jones trying to trade up to get Kyle Pitts. And not even rumors, that was a serious thing that a bunch of Cowboys personnel had to talk him out of doing. Because to me, Jerry Jones just wants to sell jerseys. That is his biggest MO. That is his biggest objective, is to be the most profitable franchise, most popular franchise. In the Buccaneers, on the other hand, you would have to think they were blown out. Very sloppy play from the Buccaneers. Their defense was good, but it wasn't as good as everybody expected it to be, especially after the end of last season, after the Super Bowl run. They just played really sloppy. 3 of the turnovers, one hit Leonard Fournette in the face on a screen pass, which was intercepted. One was a Hail Mary, and I forgot the other one off the top of my head. But the Cowboys defense looked way better than expected, and their offense looked great. But the most important thing about that offense, where if I'm a Cowboys fan, I am praising from the rooftops, is that Mike McCarthy is no longer calling plays. This does affect Zeke's fantasy value, but we're not going to talk about that because this is just a reaction video to the actual football game. But Mike McCarthy is a play caller who, since his time in Green Bay, no matter what skill their running backs had, he would just run the ball 30 times a game, run the ball as much as he could. I think the Cowboys ran the ball less than 15 times. I think both teams combined actually ran the ball less than 15 times. And I think that their offensive coordinator is going to be very good. That Cowboys offense looked, obviously they have the skill set and the personnel to be above and beyond one of the best in the league, but they were extremely creative. All of the route concepts were so creative. CD Lamb was the routes he were running and the way he was running them, whether it was delayed off the line or just fake screens, motion, pre-snap motion, it was very creative. And that is something that in today's NFL is super important because creativity generates explosive plays. So I think the Cowboys looked way better than expected. I think their defense looked a little bit better than it actually is, because one turnover, the Ronald Jones fumble was an amazing play. That was an amazing play, and then the Leonard Fournette interception was horrible. That was not a defensive play. That was Leonard Fournette's fault, and 10 of the Cowboys' points came from within the 25-yard line on turnovers. But also just talk about Dak real quick. Dak looked great. I don't think anybody expected him to come out and throw 60 times. I don't think, especially with his lat issue and his shoulder issue, like I don't think anybody came. I think for me, I was expecting him to throw under 25 times. I did not expect him to come out and throw 30 times. I thought they were gonna try to move the ball through Zeke and take their shots with Cooper and CD, but that was not the case. Dak basically threw the ball every single snap. And he looks great, and that's super encouraging because you want these players to succeed. You want everybody to be healthy because healthy NFL is the best NFL. So, very happy Dak looked good. Very happy for Dak. Excuse me. And then to talk quickly about Tom Brady. And I kind of saved this part for last because I wanted to keep this video around 10 minutes. But in business class, they taught us that successful businesses have the right people on the bus, and they get the wrong people off the bus. And I think that it's fair to say at this point in Tom Brady's career that he has the Michael Jordan effect on a franchise. And what I mean by that is if you watched, because I did not grow up during MJ's era, and I'm not going to pretend I did. But if you watch the Last Dance documentary, you see how much Michael demanded excellence and how much he ran practices demanding excellence and moved the people into the right spots to create excellence. One of the biggest frauds, I think, in the NFL is Bruce Arians. And this, if you go back to 2019 when Jameis Winston was on the Buccaneers, there hasn't been too many personnel changes on the roster. Tom Brady shows up, and he puts the right people on the bus and takes the wrong people off the bus. And I think you could take that analogy a step further in that Tom Brady put people in the right seats on the bus. Because being that most of these personnel, most of these players, most of these coaches were already on the team, and they still were not a successful franchise, and then Tom Brady shows up and changes the culture, changes the practice dynamic, changes everything, is calling plays during the game, is telling Bruce Arians no over and over and over and over again to his play calls, into the offensive coordinator's play calls. Tom Brady now has the Michael Jordan effect on teams that he goes to. And I think it was kind of hard to realize that during his time on the Patriots because Bill Belichick is the same way, demanding excellence. And that to me, this is why Tom Brady walks away from that win very upset. Because the potential for that win to go out and be about I forgot how many points they finished with. 31, I think. 31 to around 10 or 14 if their offense doesn't make the mistakes it made and it doesn't make the penalties it made. I wish I wrote it down, but I don't know how many yards the Buccaneers team allowed in penalties. Because that Dallas team, that might have been their best performance. Well, it might be their best performance all season. And that might be the Bucs' worst performance all season. So I kind of think that with all that being said about the level of performances, can Dallas sustain that and play like that every single week against teams of that caliber? Maybe. I wouldn't say so. I don't think it's reasonable to expect Dak to throw 60 times, and I don't think it's even reasonable to expect Tom Brady, as old as he is, to throw 50 times. Both teams really need to assess their running game if that's how they're going to carry it through the rest of the season. The report is that Bruce Arians benched Ronald Jones after the fumble because he just knew that he wasn't mentally checked into the game after that fumble. But I think Ronald Jones, who's someone who's averaging 5 yards per carry, and you have Leonard Fournette, who's a great. They have like Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette are two very skilled running backs. It really just doesn't make sense to me why they can't work in. Well, I don't want to say why they can't work, but why they're not as good as you would expect. Being that Leonard Fournette was a former 4th overall pick, and Ronald Jones being a 2nd-round pick and was very good throughout last season in 2020. And then to talk about the Cowboys running backs. I expected more so than I think most people that Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott were going to have a very big snap share, being that it was going to be, to me, I was saying 60-40, which may seem extreme to other people, but that's kind of exactly where it was at. And I think that Zeke is someone who Look, I tweeted this out on Pylon Twitter. Um, if you don't believe in the power of the media, why did Ezekiel Elliott move up draft boards coming off of the worst season of his career? That doesn't make any sense to me. Besides the fact that analysts and all these people just love to talk about the Dallas Cowboys and love to just make these narratives about the Dallas Cowboys because Zeke didn't prove anything, hasn't proved anything as to why he should be moving up draft boards in fantasy or why he's expecting a breakout year. Like I've said this before, the reports for Ezekiel Elliott should have been he is looking amazing in training camp with how bad the Cowboys rushing defense is. But that doesn't mean he's going to look that good against the Bucs, which he didn't. I think he was averaging about 3 yards per carry by the time the game ended, which is terrible. But I think that, outlook for both of these teams, I think the Bucs are a team that's going to get better. I think that they're going to they probably that whole team is going to get reamed by Tom Brady because he's going to demand excellence, and what they showed on Thursday is not excellence. It's just not. And the Cowboys team, there are multiple stats of, I think the Cowboys are like 0-18 on games where they don't score over 30 points. So if their offense isn't putting up astronomical numbers where teams just can't keep up, this is why I say Dallas is the best shootout team in the NFL. If they don't score 30 points, they're going to lose a game. And I just think that defense, like Micah Parsons looked great last night, but he also looked horrible at the same time. Multiple occasions where he was just lost. If you watch the tape, he was just on the complete opposite side of the field where the ball was. And I think that it's hard for me to get behind Dallas, being that they threw 60 times and had 3 turnovers, led the time of possession and led the turnover differential, and still didn't put up over 30 points. How are they supposed to do that? If they did that against the best team and didn't put up 30 points, throwing the ball 60 times, how are they supposed to do that for 16 more weeks? I just think that the expectations for the Cowboys are just kind of ludicrous, and they are not sustainable. But for the Bucs, I just think they're going to get better. They're kind of like a team similar to the Bucs is Washington football team. That's a team that had a very rough first half of the year and then caught fire down the stretch. I think the Bucs are 13-0 in their last 13 games since last season. So I expect the Bucs to keep getting better. I don't think they're going to go 17-0 or whatever, but I think they will be a 13-win team at least. The Cowboys, I had them pegged at 8 or 9 wins. I think 9-8. I think the absolute ceiling for the Cowboys is 12 wins, and I think a realistic expectation is 9 wins, and the floor for them is 8 wins. Because if the two NFC teams other than the Cowboys that are going to compete for the division title, being the New York Giants and more so the Washington football team, if they end up being above 500 teams, statistically Dak will not be able to beat them because Dak struggles against teams that are over 500. And this is why I compare Dak Prescott to Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins can go out there and throw for 300 yards and throw for 5 touchdowns, but then if he plays in prime time or plays a team that's above 500, he's going to lose the game. He's 1-17 against teams that are over 500, I think. That stat could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the stat is that he has 1 win against teams that are over 500. So that in order for Dak to move into the elite category from franchise, which we talked about in a podcast episode, just to say real quick, I have categories for where I place quarterbacks, and there's the elite, franchise, serviceable, might be time to move on. And right now I have Dak in franchise. And in order for Dak to move into elite, he needs to start beating elite teams. And in order for him to stay in franchise or not move down to serviceable, he can't keep if he goes this season in this creative of an offense with this many skill players and goes under 500 and can't beat teams over 500, he just drops down to. He has to start winning playoff games. Like, he has to start. He needs to take it to the next level, in my opinion, because he hasn't proven anything. He's proven that he could throw the ball for a ton of yards, and that's it. He has to win big games. But anyways, that's gonna do it for this video. Those are my immediate reactions to this game. Hope you enjoyed it. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Podcasts every Tuesday, Thursday. Tuesday being fantasy based or fantasy focused, and on Thursday NFL coverage focused. We try to put out videos every day. If you like what you heard, like, comment, subscribe, and we will catch you in the next video. Peace.